Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy MKS here, back here with the third and penultimate part of, I suppose, my quests to look into all possible ways for Celtic to get as much money, funding or whatnot as possible. I suppose it's the same sort of thing. And I suppose the sort of sources or channels of funding they could get. Perhaps I'd love possible investors to invest in the club, and also sponsors to sponsor the club. And as ever, I'd love to know what you think about my mad ideas, and I hope Celtic fans all around the world check out these videos. And at the same time, I welcome any support of my channel. Yeah, I can't think of much for the intro. And I'll mention in part one. I meant to mention, re-mention it in part two, but I forgot. I knew there was something I was going to say in point number 11 and point number 12, respectively, which was I was going to mention how I mentioned in part one about the song "All I Want for Christmas" by Mariah Carey. I don't know if it's a cover, but I think it's her song. Mariah Carey, who sang "All I Want for Christmas." I thought it'd be cool if Celtic fans had their own versions, as football fans can be very creative, as I mentioned before. So it'd be cool if they said, like, "All I want for Christmas is some new signings. All I want for Christmas is a strike partner for Kyogo, or midfielder, or whatever changes they could make to that song, or wealthy owners, or the PIF to invest, or something like that. Any sort of catchy sort of versions of that song. I think it'd be interesting to see what Celtic fans could come up with. And I was going to say in point number 12, I forgot that was going to be point number 11. I was going to add to, and then at point number 12, I was going to say the 12 days of Christmas. On the first day of Christmas, Desmond gave to me a new striker or a new goalkeeper, and then they could go through different positions along the pitch for the 12 days of Christmas, including squad players and all that kind of thing. But anyway, I'd love to read and hear Celtic fan versions of "All I Want for Christmas" and the 12 Days of Christmas and other songs like that. Just generally like what fans can come up with if they change the lyrics. But anyway, so these are ideas number 21 to 30. So I hope you enjoy them. Number 21, I dream that the club will learn from history and look at all the possible ways that the club has raised funds before, and see if they can replicate those ideas again, or repeat those ideas, or whatever. And also what the club can learn from other clubs like Real Madrid or others about ways the club could get finances. To be honest, I know Celtic might not be able to do everything Real Madrid does, obviously, but they might not be able, including raising capital. There might be certain things that Real Madrid does that Celtic, for whatever reason, are unable to do. Like some people say, Real Madrid are owned partly by the government and Strict royal family, or even if it's their fans, as a capital of a country that is, I suppose, bigger and probably more wealthier than Scotland. To be honest, it would be hard to see if Celtic could do all the things as say Real Madrid does. But if they could replicate or copy, or whatever the best word is for it, let's say copy. I think replicate is the right word as well, but let's say copy to keep it simple for a simple person like myself. Any of the ideas that Real Madrid does to raise funds, or whatever Real Madrid does, or other teams, what could Celtic do to copy those sorts of teams, at least a little bit, or what sort of things can they copy, or whatever. As I've said, within the rules of the game, of course, copyrights and all that. Number 22. I hope, once again, as I mentioned before, I hope that the club will look into all possible new ways they can raise funds. Again, I know I mentioned before, like sometimes on Zoom, or sometimes even inviting to Celtic Park all possible wealthy investors, shareholders or whatnot, people like Mohammed bin Salman from the PIF, or sovereign wealth funds generally, people from Qatar, Dubai, and all sorts of places. As I often say, I'm probably very naive. Maybe some fans of other clubs, maybe even Rangers fans, might watch these videos. I'll probably turn into a meme, I don't know. But I just thought I'd share these ideas anyway, as naive as they might be, and as much of a dream as they might be. I know I often talk about my dreams, especially for football and things like that, just generally. But as I say, I'd love to see how the club could look into new ways to market, new markets, new ways they could brand themselves, new ways they could attract investment, and maybe, as I say, listen to sovereign wealth funds and billionaires and Forbes 500 companies or even 400 companies or whatever, and different companies around the world and investors, and talk about what sort of things they would want to have shares or equity in the club. One of the things I was thinking of as well earlier, and I often think about, or have recently been thinking about, is like people say how the board is quite tight, how the club is quite tight, or the people who run it are quite tight. As many fans complain about their club, I suppose we're not the only ones who complain about that, but they say Peter Lowell and people like that don't want to reinvest. Some people even say sack the board, but part of the equation is who would come in to replace them. But I was thinking, like, if the club says we don't want to reinvest, and we want to keep the money in the bank, then that's probably not even good business sense, because to get to the Champions League, the club can get a lot of money for doing so. So it's probably worth looking at saying, to pretty much guarantee winning the league and getting into the Champions League, it might be worth investing a certain amount rather than penny pinching and then later on actually missing out on more money. So if you think about any business, if you think we don't want to invest £1 million, but if your business could make 2 million by investing £1 million, or even 1.5 million, it's probably worth it, depending on the duration of time. If you know what I mean, hopefully. Some people out there know what I mean. Number 23, again, I'd love for the club to work with charities, NGOs, and any organisation they can. And again, sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, banks, businesses, and any possible investor to see. I think he wants to be in the video, not sure. To see all possible ways the club could acquire investment, attract investment, and that kind of thing. And again, I think it's good to listen to potential investors about what could be in it for them, what do they want, and what could the club offer them to encourage investment from sovereign wealth funds or whatnot. And as I say, look at ways to attract investment, maybe like the fans, make sure that they don't offend potential investors or sponsors, so that the club can get funding, which is a bit of a difficult issue, I know, because, like, say, the Israel and Palestine conflict, it is a bit difficult because the Celtic fans do support Palestine quite a lot, but maybe there is some sort of way that they can get investment from pro-Palestinian groups as well. So that's another revenue. But I hope that all possible sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, private equity funds, venture capitalists, that's what I'm looking for, 2 words I'm looking for, banks, businesses, and basically anyone who invests. I'd love for all of the possible ones to invest in the club and sponsor the club and whatnot. Invest in and or sponsor the club, respectively, at least one of those things, preferably both. And again, any sort of legal way the club can get funding. Number 24, I suppose sovereign wealth funds are normally, for those who might not know, as far as I'm aware, they're sort of where an entire nation kind of invests some of its reserves. Qatar, or possibly Dubai, or Brunei, or Saudi Arabia, or a place like that, or any country, especially one that has oil, might take some of that money and reinvest it in, so they can do it, I suppose, so they can diversify their economy, their portfolio and their economy, so that if oil, the price of oil or the value of oil or whatever, same thing, I suppose, goes down, if oil goes down in value, basically, to put it simply, they have other alternative ways they could make money. 25, I hope that people who support Republics will support Celtic, and hopefully the more fans the club gets all around the world, as I said before, the more the club can capitalise financially. And I mean, I hope the club I'd still love for the club to get investment, if I'm really dreaming from, like, the PIF or Saudi itself, Saudi Arabia, through whatever means they can find illegally, even if they have to use some sort of loopholes or different names to invest or whatever, from Saudi organisations, Qatar, Dubai, China, India, and all over the world. And if the club could offer it tax incentives, I think that would be pretty cool. But maybe even people who support Republics could support the club financially as well, and have shares or equity in the club. As I mentioned before, maybe fans could maybe people who support republics enough could even donate to a club or whatnot, as it has Republican roots. Although that's a bit of a dilemma because I don't want to put off royalist countries or whatnot from investing. Number 26, I think it'd be cool if the club got reparations for the harsh treatment of the Irish people. I know that's because of the Irish roots, because of the escape from the potato famine and the songs that have been sung about Celtic, and maybe the club could work with other clubs with Irish roots, or even Irish clubs themselves. But clubs like Hibs, I know they don't always see eye to eye, but maybe they could work together to get reparations for discrimination against the Irish, so anti-Irish discrimination. It'd be cool if the club could get reparations for that. If the Irish community got reparations, and that was because Celtic is so important for the Irish community, I think that would be cool. A cool way to give reparations. Number 27, as I say, I hope the club will get rewarded for the good work they do, and that will encourage people to support the club. Although the club is not really a Muslim club, it still has, I'm sure, a lot of Muslim fans or anyone who's sympathetic to Palestine. So again, if they buy the merchandise, the footballs, kits, and whatever, that helps the club financially. So it could be a reward for the things the club does, although I try and take a neutral line if I can. I didn't know that would be so controversial before, but some people get offended whenever you say, but so it's difficult not to offend people out there. But again, I hope the club gets rewarded for the good work they do through the foundation and things like that. So people who support charities and whatnot will support the club, hopefully, and I hope it will benefit the club financially. Number 28, a point I was going to make and I nearly forgot was, I think there was a few points I was going to make. I'd love for the club to get money, talking about sources of income or whatever you want to call it, funding basically that the club could get, including to build football pitches for local youth, which I hope will benefit the club by having great facilities, the best possible facilities for young people and things like that. I hope that will benefit the club in the short and especially the long term. I think it'd be cool if the club got lottery funding and also funding from local politicians. I forgot to say point number 24, funding from like local politicians, councils, and things like that. So local and national politicians in Glasgow and across Scotland, the SNP, and also Celtic and Gaelic political parties and things like that. I think it'd be cool if they funded the club, helped the club financially, and Celtic countries and Gaelic countries perhaps even, Celtic nations and things like that, as I mentioned before. Number 29, I hope that maybe in the future, my fellow mutts, as I call us, mixed race people and neurodiverse people can show what we can do for the club and benefit the club financially. I often mention how I'd love to create a neurodiverse billionaires network, and I'd love for them to, if I did ever get to create that, I would love to fund Italian football and Celtic. And again, I mentioned before, I'd love for Italian football and Celtic to have a partnership and look at what they can learn from each other, including how to attract investment and things like that. So what works to benefit those clubs financially. Maybe Italian fans could have Celtic as a second favourite team and vice versa. And again, having a bigger fan base, having more fans hopefully will benefit the club financially. Again, I could be being naive. And number 30, if I could, I would donate 20% of my own money to Italian football and Celtic. I suppose above what I need to live on. But yeah, I know sometimes I forget my train of thoughts, but I hope it wasn't too cringeworthy. I can't imagine like Rangers fans watching this video and like taking the mick, but with my mad ideas. But I hope Celtic fans love these videos, and again, I welcome all your support, and I'm going to stop baffling. I wish you a peaceful day, afternoon, evening, night, or whenever, depending on where you are in the world, what time it is that you're watching. Again, please share this with Celtic fans, and again, peace and love. I'm out.